Good morning, everybody. I'm Bear with BearFAK, founder and CEO of Refuge Medical, president of Grindstone Ministries and Kaleb House. We're going to do the brief today. It is 14 December 22. If you're new here, subscribe, ring the little bell icon. You know what to do. If you're not new here, you know what to do. Share the show with somebody you love. I'm recovering from being fairly sick as of this past Friday evening. But it is Wednesday, and we are up and doing the things. Thank you to everybody who has kept us in prayer. Appreciate you all very much. We're going to do the brief today. It's a relatively short brief with probably a lot of commentary, and then we're going to talk a little bit about missile systems in Ukraine and in Japan. Live from the bunker, of course. Also, by the way, there's one of y'all who, when I use the title "We All Gonna Die Wednesday," likes to get a little uppity, thinking that I'm stealing from Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival. I'm not doing that. If I am, I'm not doing it knowingly. I've been using that phrase for a couple of years. If you go back to the threat matrix videos during the beginning of COVID. So what's that, 2019?
Yeah.
2019. We All Gonna Die Wednesday became a thing. In fact, the threat matrix whiteboard is over here on the wall right there. So it's been around for a hot minute. And if that is an issue, I would humbly submit Hudson Valley Survival and Prepping. Please reach out to us, admin at Bear Independent. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. I'm not trying to piss in anybody's Cheerios or steal anybody's thunder. Okay? Now, that being said, daily brief, 14 December 22. A cyber attack forced One Brooklyn Health to take critical services offline several weeks ago, impacting multiple major hospitals in the network. Last Monday, California's Cybersecurity Integration Center confirmed that the state's finance department has been infiltrated by Lockbit, a ransomware group affiliated with Russia. Russian state actors are also believed to be behind the attack on the Irish Health Service executive last year, the cost of which has now reached the equivalent of $84.75 million. One of Russia's major banks, VTB, was recently struck by an unprecedented cyber attack, and North Korean hackers infected South Korean computers by exploiting a zero-day vulnerability. Zero-day vulnerabilities, by the way, these are like new vulnerabilities, meaning, and this is a term that the industry, as I understand it, that the industry uses to express that they have 0 days of protection against that vulnerability. Like it's brand new versus your standard run-of-the-mill, ransomware and viruses and stuff that, that your off-the-shelf virus protection software is going to scan and find. There's lots of days of protection against that. 0 day means that it's so new they have 0 days of protection against that virus or that type of attack. Morning, CB. Morning, Coal Miner's Daughter. Morning, everybody in the chat. The cyber field continues to heat up as vulnerabilities continue to be exploited across nations and industries alike. Now, a couple things I want to point out here. First of all is the fragility of the system. As things become more and more technologically advanced, that creates more and more vectors for those systems to be attacked. We see here Russia attacking multiple major hospitals. Why is that important? Well, you might need a hospital. What happens if there isn't a hospital? Like, be your own first responder. There's some things that you're absolutely going to want to seek a higher level of care for. There's some things, maybe not so much. You got the flu, hopefully you're a prepper, you're doing prepper things, you can weather a flu, right? But these systems, for myriad reasons, continue to degrade, whether it's a lack of capital due to economic crisis, or if it's a lack of functionality due to cyber attacks, or it's a lack of staffing due to mandates. Though the healthcare system in the United States of America and elsewhere is falling apart. It is not what it used to be. And that can be quite scary. That's why we prep, though. That's why we take the steps that we take now, so that we don't have to be subjected necessarily to the fragility of the system, right? So we have our own robust resilience So we get to decide how we engage with the system, not the other way around. Cyber attacks have been ongoing for a long time. They're probably going to get worse before they get better. But like all industries, sooner or later, the industry will catch up, hopefully, right? And I do have, because I think it's the best possible outlook, I do have some vague optimism for the future, because I don't want to live in a Canadian prepper thumbnail. You know, I don't want to be the guy with a gas mask and an AR in front of a burning city. You know, that I don't want to be that guy. But I do see the reality of potential, these potential vectors of attack. And I see the reality of them being able to negatively impact our lives, which is why we mitigate that risk through preparedness. Just like any other type of insurance, you spend money to mitigate risk. So having the equipment and the training to be able to take care of yourself in lieu of needing a hospital, and having a strong network of people that know how to take care of you in lieu of needing a hospital, highly recommended. This is also an example of fifth generation warfare. Fifth generation warfare encompasses all previous generations of warfare, as well as has its own facets. S2 Underground did a phenomenal, about an hour-long video on fifth generation warfare. I would highly recommend, if you're unfamiliar with that term, that you check that video out. S2 Underground, very good channel. Third generation warfare being large-scale conventional warfare. Fourth gen being the age of terrorism, which is violence for political gain. And fifth gen now adding in cyber attacks and asymmetric warfare, as well as Gen 3 and Gen 4, plus disinformation, misinformation, etc. Which we'll see in one of the articles we're going to read here in a moment. We've got a Russian official basically saying, you can't believe anything the news says, just wait for official word. Well, we can believe official words as well. Roger that. Meanwhile, cyber insurance programs are rising higher, while offered coverage is shrinking in the face of elevated cyber attack frequency, severity, and costs. Dan Garcia Diaz, the managing director of the U.S. Government Accounting Office, said that a, quote, small business may have more difficulty purchasing cyber insurance, end quote, and that, quote, one insurer reported that it opted not to insure the energy sector. Energy, like electrons flowing through the wires, powering everything that we use in our daily lives. One insurer reported that it opted not to insure the energy sector because of the energy sector's vulnerability to attacks, and because of concerns that energy operators do not follow robust cybersecurity protocols, end quote. Now, insurance companies, this is not being broadly discussed, but many insurance companies right now are going broke. A lot of Americans, whether individuals or small businesses or enterprise level companies, are taking a look at their revenue and not necessarily having the money to afford insurance. So they're buying less insurance or no insurance at all. Couple that with these infrastructure attacks, which cost lots and lots of money to insure, to rebuild after the attacks take place. And then Mother Nature needing a cocktail and a nap here lately, just kind of demolishing everything in its path. You know, hurricanes, tornadoes, all of that. The rising expense of extreme weather events, you know, whether it's the solar cycle or HARP or global warming or Gaia's just pissed off. I don't know. But I would surmise there's two reasons, actually. Rabbit hole for the rabbit hole. There's two reasons for the increased cost in dealing with extreme weather events. The first is the increased population density around the coasts. 80% of the world's population lives within 50 miles of the coast. That's where hurricanes tend to hit, around the coast. The next is inflation. Yes, it cost more in 2022 dollars to fix a problem than it did in 2020 or in 2000 or in 1900, because the value of the dollar has decreased significantly over that course of time. So if you were to graph those things on a curve without accounting for inflation, it's definitely going to seem like the cost is going up, which becomes a negative feedback loop of bad data when making the argument that the cost of these storms are going through the roof. Yeah, because inflation is going through the roof. Who'd have thought? You know, I think my dad bought a 65 Mustang Fastback for like $3,700. $3,700. You can't buy the wheels and the tires for that now. You know, like just for giggles the other day, I priced out a new 1-ton HD pickup truck. You know, all the bells and whistles. Just click through the website, just looking at it. You know, goals one day, right? Yeah, $73,000. $73,000. I had, well, my dad had a truck that I like to drive, F-250, 77 F-250 with a 8-foot utility body on it. And that truck, when he bought it, I believe was under $4,000. 3/4 ton utility truck, 4-wheel drive. So it's called $4,000 to 73 grand. What's that? What's that inflation? 17x inflation rate? Yeah. From 77 to say 2017, you know, what's that? 45 years, 17x in 45 years. But, you know, the rising costs of all these global, you know, critical weather events and shut up. It's the tail wagging the dog on that. But I'm deep into that rabbit hole. As far as the insurance sector not insuring the energy sector because of its vulnerability to attacks and because of concerns that energy operators do not follow robust security protocols, cybersecurity protocols. I've been saying this for a long time, and I'm going to continue to say it. It is highly inconvenient. It costs more, but it's way more robust if we have a dumb grid, not a smart grid. Now, there's a certain amount of sensors and what's called a SCADA system, which is data acquisition, system controls, that's required to operate the grid. There's a lot of complexity to operating the grid. But at the end of the day, we're going to use some type of methodology, probably steam, to spin a generator that generates electrons that flow down a metal wire from where it's generated through transformers to where you use it, right? And there are controls in there. There are auto fuses, and there are relays, and there are disconnects, and there's all types of instrumentation. But if we digitize all of that instrumentation, every single point, every single component becomes a vector of attack. You know, we see in the Moore County, North Carolina, which some people have been calling a very sophisticated attack on the grid. Homeboy, that was not sophisticated. Another rabbit hole. Sophisticated would have been follow-on attacks, would have been coordinated efforts, would have been multiple attacks in multiple places by multiple teams at the same time. And when I say follow-on attacks, I mean, so you attack this thing and then people show up to fix this thing, and then you attack the people that show up to fix this thing. We didn't see any of that. I'm not saying necessarily that it was rednecks with AKs that shot holes in the equipment, but I'm also saying it doesn't take a genius to know which things inside of the substation you need to make holes in order for it to not work anymore. And as far as targeting specifically the communities where the drag queen, you know, show was being held, it takes a high level of sophistication in order to be able to target those communities. No, it doesn't. If you go to, and make no mistake, I'm not advocating for any type of domestic terrorism, nor am I encouraging you to be a domestic terrorist. But if you go to the area study video in the Prepper Classroom playlist on this channel, one of the things that's discussed is how to determine which substations power your community. It's really simple. Go to Google Earth, find your house, look at the power line that feeds your house, and start backtracking. That power line will sooner or later run into a substation, usually within 20 miles of where your house is. It's that simple. Boom, there it is. 10 minutes of digital map recon, you know which substation powers what community. It's really simple. So it's not a highly sophisticated attack. But if you had a dumb grid rather than a smart grid, it would require a lot more labor to manage it when something bad happens. the response times when you have a grid down scenario would go up because there would be less smart instrumentation in order to mechanically, digitally, remotely open and close fuses, relays, etc. But it would vastly limit the vectors of attack from a cybersecurity standpoint rather than having digitized controls on everything. There was what's the name of that virus? I think it was called Stuxnet. 2018 was the United States produced it, or at least a country that was very sensitive towards Iran's uranium enrichment program produced it. And Stuxnet it's because it's out there. You can find it. You can Google it and find the virus. I wouldn't do that, but you can find it. It's out there now in the wild. Is a virus that's designed to attack Siemens PLCs, programmable logic controllers, that were used to control the centrifuges for Iran's uranium enrichment program. And what it did was every 15 minutes, it increased the revolution speed of the centrifuge and then decreased it over and over and over again. And what that did was prematurely wear out the bearings on the centrifuge, so now the centrifuges don't work. By hacking into the PLCs, programmable logic controllers, the computers that run the machines, this 1 megabit virus was able to take offline Iran's uranium enrichment program. And it's specifically written to attack Siemens programmable logic controllers. Guess what controls about 80% of the grid? Guess what's in the base of every wind turbine? You open the door, you walk into the tower section. What's staring you right in the face? A Siemens PLC. Dude, they're everywhere. And that virus is out there everywhere. And that's just one example. So I'm a fan of a dumb grid. Now, it's much more labor intensive, but it's much more robust. Skynet. That's right, Andy Barnes. That's right. It's out there. So, back to the brief. One Bear National wrote in saying, I am a route driver and a vendor in the southwest region of the USA. The company I work for holds contracts to deliver food to grocery stores, gas stations, your local Family Dollar, all that jazz. For the last week, my company has been experiencing unusual technical difficulties. I've worked for this company for approximately 6 years and have never had these levels of issues with this frequency. Today, we got a company-wide email letting us know that the servers we operate on have been under constant cyber attack. Again, attacks on critical infrastructure, 5th generation warfare, fragility of the system. And I don't say any of this to scare you. I say this because I think some of us at times might just ease our foot off the accelerator of preparedness occasionally. And it's really important, at least to me, it's really important that we operate on 2 axes. The first is this whole place could go to hell in a handbasket in any moment, and we have to have the resilience of preparation to be able to weather that storm, whatever it may be when it comes. The other is literally nothing could go wrong, and we continue down this path of life for 90% normalcy context that we come to live every day. And it is a good man that leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And he who does not work has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. 1 Timothy 5, verse 8. So keep doing stuff, keep working, keep being a benefit to society and a blessing for your family, right? So we've got these 2, seems like almost diametrically opposed axes that we have to function on. You have to be ready, and you have to keep going as if you might never, ever have to be ready, right? Because it's insurance. This being ready, this preparedness, this resiliency is insurance. I don't think about my truck insurance when I'm driving. I don't think about my life insurance when I'm doing dangerous stuff. I just have it. It's just there, right? But it is a factor of, it's part of our life, right? I don't live on the homestead that I live on simply because preparedness. No, I like it. Like, I like eating sheep. I made a homemade sheep calzone yesterday, bro. Let me tell you, it was better than it sounds. It's probably the best freaking calzone I've ever had from scratch because I have sheep. That's quality of life, right? But we can't let the quality of life outshine the potential for the need of resilience. And we can't let the potential for the need of resilience outshine the quality of life. There's a balance here to these two things. And so if you find yourself being one of those people that gets burned out, getting prepared, staying prepared, right? Like that hypervigilance to the point where it just burns out your adrenal system, shift focus, right? Like don't be so hyper-focused on the what ifs that you miss the fact of what is. What is a good life. What could be potential chaos, right? So if you're overwhelmed with the potential chaos, shift focus back to what is a good life. And if you spend so much time on what is a good life that you become lackadaisical in your responsibility to be prepared, shift focus back over here to what could be. And so it forces us to wear these two different hats, to look objectively at these two different situations. If I had to bet on something, I'd rather bet on what is a good life. I'd rather bet on that and perpetuate that than bet on the what if, nuclear holocaust and global chaos. Like that's going to suck. Doesn't mean I'm not ready for it, but that's going to suck. So I don't dwell on that. Hopefully that makes sense. Back to the brief. Today, we got a company-wide email letting us know that the servers we operate on have been under a constant cyber attack. This info comes from the vice president of our internet provider. Also worth noting, other vendors have been mentioning similar issues when we talk. We are the ones delivering your food and have had major issues getting it into local grocery stores. Yay. Good news, right? Good news. Other than an emergency saltines run recently, we are blessed that most of our food comes out of the pantry and out of the field. So that's pretty cool. And it's not a prepper flex. It's just a fact. Hey, my wife is here. Shalom, sweetheart. And Rex is here. Shalom, brother. Cool video went up last night. If you didn't watch it, me and my wife hanging out, making coffee and tea in the field, testing out a camp stove, and then moving sheep. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you can check that out. Let's see. Let's talk about missiles. From MSN, Japan to buy Tomahawk missiles and defense buildup amid fears of war. Dateline Tokyo. Alarmed by increasing security threats and the risk of war in the Indo-Pacific, Japan will seek to purchase hundreds of the U.S.-built Tomahawk cruise missile as part of a major defense buildup unprecedented in the post-war period, Japanese and U.S. officials said. Part of why it's unprecedented is Japan's constitutions, written by us, signed in 1947, basically limits the size of their military because, we kicked their ass once. We didn't want to have to kick their ass a second time. Japan is a really important jumping off point for the United States in the Indo-Pacific region. If/when we have a war there with China, we're going to need Japan. And so now it's looking like Japan is going to onboard approximately 400 to 500 Tomahawk cruise missiles. The Tomahawk has a range of 185 to 1,500 miles, speeds of up to 885 kilometers per hour, and can carry all different types of payloads from conventional munitions to nuclear munitions, although allegedly we retired the nuclear component of that munition in 2013. However, it's interesting in this article from MSN, it talks about Japan wanting to have a second strike capability. Second strike capability is directly referencing nuclear warfare. So should we get our prepper panties in a wad over this? Maybe. Is it an indicator? Hell yeah, it's an indicator. It's an indicator that the likelihood of increased conflict in the Pacific region is definitely escalating. Putting 400 to 500 long-range missiles, like missiles capable of hitting from Japan, Russia, and China, capable of carrying nuclear munitions on Japan is definitely an indicator. Ishiro Fujisaki, former Japanese ambassador to the United States, said many people thought war was a 20th century issue, but we are now seeing that again. I don't know who those many people were, but you're delusional. Japan wanted to limit its defense spending and try not to acquire a second strike capability, but the situation surrounding us does not permit us to do that. Yeah, so now they have a second strike capability. That's fun. Quote, the United States is not just taking unilateral steps, but is seeking to empower allies and partners in ways that are deeply significant and magnify our capacities in the region, end quote, said a U.S. official who, like several others interviewed, spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss plans that are not yet public. The decision to buy hundreds of Tomahawks, 400 to 500 by some accounts, will put China and North Korea on notice that Japan is serious about self-defense and that the bilateral alliance, arguably the most significant military in the region, is growing stronger in the face of threats from Beijing and Pyongyang, officials said. I love the Diplo speak. From RT, U.S. missiles in Ukraine will be targeted if delivered, said the Kremlin. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on Wednesday that Russia would certainly target U.S. MIM-104 Patriot missile systems in Ukraine if the weapons are deployed in the ongoing conflict. The Patriot missile system has approximately a 100-kilometer-ish range, somewhere in there, capacity to track up to 100 targets, and can provide missile guidance data for up to 9 other missiles. So, good times. Patriot missile system. Short range, well, mid-range missile versus the Tomahawk, which is a long-range cruise missile. Media reports in the U.S. have indicated the plans to deliver the air defense systems are in the final stages. Peskov's remarks came in response to a question about how Russia would react to the possible delivery of the U.S.-made systems, which Kiev currently does not have. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, who is now deputy chair of the National Security Council, stated in late November that such weapons and their crews would be legitimate targets if a NATO member were to deliver them. He's correct. You roll those things into a theater of war, they are absolutely not just legitimate targets, they are priority targets in my mind. When asked whether the Kremlin supported Medvedev's stance, Peskov confirmed that that was the case, but advised against rushing to conclusions. Quote, in our times, media reports are not reliable. Let us wait for official information, end quote, he explained. Medvedev's remarks came after NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg had praised Germany's decision to deploy its Patriot missiles to Poland. He hailed Berlin's support of Kiev and remarked that, quote, decisions on specific capabilities, end quote, being sent to Ukraine were up to national governments. Some observers, including Medvedev, took this as a hint of an upcoming deployment of the weapons. CNN claimed this week that the Pentagon is finalizing a proposal to arm Ukraine with Patriot missiles. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has to give the plan the go-ahead before it would be sent to the president for approval, the network said. Sources cited by other major news outlets confirming the reporting. If delivered, each missile battery would require dozens of well-trained air defenders to operate, retired U.S. Army General Mark Hertling remarked on Twitter. I still hate the fact that Twitter is part of the news. Like, I get it. People said things with their thumbs, but it's like, we really live in that day and age now. Preparing crews would require months. So, quote, unless there's been secret training ongoing for months, approval doesn't mean those systems will be on the battlefield immediately, end quote. Well, as far as secret training ongoing for months, the United States of America, has had people in Ukraine for a decade. I know that's not popular, but it's a fact. Spooky guys doing spooky stuff. The U.S. and its allies have pledged to support Ukraine with arms, training, and funding for, quote, as long as it takes, end quote, to defeat Russia. Moscow says Western nations are simply prolonging the conflict in an attempt to hurt Russia. Yeah. And are pressuring the Ukrainian government not to enter into peace negotiations. Yeah. While also simultaneously trading some WNBA player for the Lord of War, or whatever that guy's name was. Right, so we're funding Ukraine and giving Russia their top arms dealer back. Hegelian dialectic. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And if you control the synthesis, you get to make a boatload of money. I do not control the synthesis, which is why I look like this and I'm in a bunker 40 foot underground right now. That's the brief for today. I appreciate y'all super duper much. If you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, I cordially invite you to beat, feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. Merchant of Death. That's right. You know, whatever. Lord of War, Merchant of Death. Good morning, Jesse Buckland. For everybody else, Patreon fam, I love you. You're the best. Tremendous. Believe it. It's $5 a month. There's a link in the description of every video and live stream. Exclusive content up the wazoo over there. This morning was an epic rant called A Book About a Book. You might want to check that out. It also might, honestly speaking, hurt your feelings. Tactically Tora. Okay, bye. Listen, Tato, I know where you sleep. A book about a book, an epic rant this morning. Can't swat a bunker. Well, you can. It's just way harder. Refuge Medical. The featured kit of the day is the BearFAK 3.0 today. 57 lives saved to date. 4 continents, all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces electively. Badass kit. Made in America, guaranteed forever. We get the coolest stories about the use of the BearFAK. From people who have had mechanical amputations of their arms who've saved their lives, to people who were in motor vehicle accidents themselves, saving their own life with a tourniquet from a BearFAK, to being the first responder on scene, meaning literally they were the first person to respond on the scene of a motor vehicle accident, and were able to save 2 people's lives with the contents of 1 BearFAK. Had a law enforcement officer who was stabbed in a bathroom stall while dealing with a scumbag who was trying to abduct a child. And his partner had a BearFAK with him and was able to wound pack the subclavian artery. The bad guy stabbed him in the subclavian artery. That's bad, right? Your clavicle's right here, and then there's a pocket right here. Subclavian artery is directly underneath of that, and it's about the diameter of your pointer finger, and there's a lot of blood that runs through that. And so that little pocket right there, you get a knife in there and cut. Subclavian artery sucks, and this is what we call a junctional space. And so the officer's partner was able to pack that wound with quick clot. Awesome officers. They arrested the bad guy, saved the kid, packed the wound, applied a pressure bandage, called for backup, and got the bad guy into jail. Like, bravo Zulu, man. And so, like, the fact that the BearFAK has been associated with all this like really cool stuff, including legitimately people who don't have names doing stuff that never happened in places that don't exist. Some of the after actions we've got on that, it's like the only reason I stayed alive between the conflict and the helo was because of my BearFAK, is just incredible. So today, the BearFAK is what we're featuring at refugemedical.com. Also, the entire month of December, you get free shipping, and we're shipping fast. Like, if you see it on the store, it's in stock, which means today's Wednesday. If you order it today, you'll probably have it by Friday in time for the holiday season, no doubt. Even if you're like a super duper procrastinator and you don't wrap stuff till the night before, kind of like somebody that I know, it'll show up on time. And it's also the entire month of December is tourniquets are BOGO-HO, buy one, get one half off. And a lot of people have been writing in like, but the price doesn't look right in my cart. It's just a function of Shopify, the program that we use for online checkout. It automatically adjusts at checkout. It won't look right in your cart, but I promise you, it automatically adjusts at checkout. And if it doesn't, for any reason, we have the best customer service on the face of the earth. I guarantee you we will make it right, or I will personally fix it. So, BearFAKs, tourniquets, BOGO-HO, buy one, get one half off, free shipping the entire month of December. Thank you for supporting RM, Refuge Medical. You boys and girls are tremendous. Refuge training right now, right this red hot minute. In fact, 34 minutes ago, the pilot for Responder 4 began. Responder 4, 24-hour continuous tactical medical force-on-force scenario-based training class. I have to go there later today, show up and do boss stuff, look good for the cameras, all of that. But yeah, Responder 4, serious TAC med stuff. One of the places that we're looking at doing Responder 4 for with the public is Skirmish USA. in Pennsylvania, 750-acre paintball field facility. And we're going to rent the whole thing if we do it, all of it. And so think of you and a team of like 10 other people, and you have 24 hours to render aid, navigate on the map, achieve the objectives, play the tactical scavenger hunt game, get to the X for your extraction, fight off the bad guys, make contact with your supporting elements, get to the trucks and get out of there. All while learning tactical medicine. It's going to be tremendous. And Responder 4 is by invite only for our Responder 3 alumni. So you had to have taken Responder 3 in order to qualify for Responder 4. So that being said, if all of that sounds awesome, but you don't know which end of the tourniquet goes where, you need to start with Responder 1. 4-hour classroom setting, teaching the March algorithm, massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, everything else. We've had 2 people save lives with their kits from training, because you get a training kit when you come to class as part of the cost of the class. You keep it. Those people were doctors. Well, a doctor and his wife who's a nurse. And when they came to class, I was like, why are you even here? They're like, dude, all this medicine happens out there in the field. I don't know any of this. I was like, wow, that's really humbling, actually. They took the class, this man and his wife, and they were blown away. They're like, this class is awesome. Thank you. Like, really good combination of medicine and tactical practical with your hands. This is Responder 1. And then his wife had her training kit on her back seat, driving home from work one day, witnessed a motor vehicle accident, was able to hop out of the car and apply a tourniquet to a critical femoral bleed and save that person's life. EMS only got there like 17 minutes later or something like that, which if you have a critical bleed to your femoral artery, you've got best case scenario 3 minutes, more like 90 seconds. Well, the ambulance would have been about 15 minutes late. So that woman saved a person's life. And then the doc had his blue TQ that he got from class in his coat in the ER. And a guy came in like literally bleeding to death. And he was able to take his blue TQ in the ER and apply his blue TQ and save that guy's life in the ER. Badass, like just badass. So the tangibles and the intangibles of refuge training are like incredible on both sides of the coin. So there's lots of new classes up on the site, refugetraining.com. I recommend you go to the site, find a class that's nearest to you, and go ahead and book the class. Even if it's months from now, the classes are selling out fast. So go ahead and book the class and talk about a gift. Literally give the gift of life this holiday season. You know, we talk about insurance. You know, we were talking about insurance earlier and mitigating risk. I booked a class. Good job, Rambet. By the way, awesome name. Refuge sells life assurance. That's what we sell. And we make it here in America. And we have the best kits you can buy. We have the best training you can take as a civilian. It's an honor and a blessing to be a part of this organization, to have founded this organization, and then have all these badass people come alongside me and build out these awesome teams of people who are just out there getting after it day after day. And thank you for you guys supporting what we do. Like we couldn't do this without you. This is a beautiful partnership between both sides of the camera. Lastly, Grindstone Ministries. It's the end of the year. So if you do end of the year giving, or if your company or agency or organization does end of the year giving, please prayerfully consider Grindstone Ministries. It takes about $20,000 a month to take care of the people that we've already rescued from human trafficking. And we have ongoing anti-human trafficking operations right now. And it's going to take about $1.5 million to build Kaleb House, which is our restoration facility. In addition to that, storms are expensive. When tornadoes hit, it costs a bunch of money to go be able to deploy Grindstone to go do, clean up after hurricanes and tornadoes. A bunch of y'all were asking in the chat, Bear, are you guys okay after those storms that went through? Yeah, we're okay. And several members of the board for Grindstone have been reaching out to the communities that have been affected, keeping an eye on things, and it doesn't appear that there's any serious damage. No widespread damage, which is good. Praise Yah.
Yeah, they were able to say like 3 houses.
Yeah, like 3 houses. And that's not taking anything away from the 3 people who experienced that. But that's different than a city killer or a county killer, which we've seen a lot with Grindstone. So end of year giving, please prayerfully consider us. There's a link in the description to our brother Saw, his shirt, Facts Not Feelings, being produced by Sanctified Supply Co. It's an awesome shirt, and a portion of the proceeds go to support the construction of Kaleb House. So another awesome gift, or just an awesome shirt to wear around. And then Kaleb House, hoodies, long sleeves, and t-shirts. These are a pre-order being done by our brother and sister at Sanctified Supply Co. They will ship in early January, I believe. So this is not a holiday season gift. It's just a badass piece of apparel to support the construction of Kaleb House and to evangelize for people out there. I think they're really awesome looking. And so that's what we got going on today, boys and gerbils. I appreciate y'all immensely. Thank you for bearing with me as I was gone from the internet on Monday. I am making a recovery. I promise you I will make a full recovery. Thank you for being a part of our lives. Thank you for allowing me into your life every day. Thank you for supporting Bear Independent, Refuge Medical, Refuge Training, Grindstone Ministries, Kaleb House. There is not a better audience on the face of the earth. There is not a more impactful audience on the face of the earth. It is an honor and a blessing to be able to do this. And I really, truly appreciate you on the other side of the screen. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.